back, everybody. The History Guy here. It is time for the bloodiest day in American history, the Battle of Antietam, as it was known in the North, or the Battle of Sharpsburg, as it was known to Southerners. And as you can see, I'm going to be taking 73,000 men and 47 brigades into this fight, 190 guns up against his 51,000 and 155 guns. I've actually got a lot more troops available to me that I could have put in, but I felt like the more I added, the more it was scaling him up, and the smaller the percentage advantage that I had. And at this point, I'm also mostly arming folks with reboard farmer rifles, and I just didn't feel like that was to my advantage to keep growing my army, only to have his grow in response. So I've loaded up really heavily on my right side for this fight, so a lot of my army is going to be on my right flank going up against the Confederate left. And I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to move all of these forces down over here. And I'm actually going to eventually bring them down even further down. And I'm going to try to make my main attack come from over here to the west rather than coming down, because I'm going to be getting reinforcements that will be coming down this way, and I'll bring those reinforcements straight down in the position that was historically the way that the Union attacked down through Miller's Cornfield and then onto the Sunken Lane. And of course the battlefield is going to open up. So while we're waiting on that, what I just thought I would do is talk a little bit about the historical Battle of Antietam. And I would argue, and feel free to disagree with me about this, but I would argue that Antietam is at least as important as the Battle of Gettysburg in terms of a turning point of the war, if not more important. And the reason why is because Antietam is what allowed Lincoln to refocus the goals of the war. Up until this point, the war for the Union had been about Union. It had been about reuniting the country. It had been about subduing a rebellion. It wasn't about slavery for the Union. And for a lot of folks in the South, it wasn't about slavery either. It was about, especially for folks in some of the northernmost Confederate states like Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, for a lot of those folks, this was about repelling a foreign invader. Now, obviously, there's a lot in the news right now about the reasons behind the war, and I don't want to get into all the modern politics of things, but Virginia, for example, only seceded after Fort Sumter was fired upon, and Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers. And if you read what people like Robert E. Lee wrote, or Governor Letcher of Virginia wrote, you'll see that they were responding to what they saw as tyranny by the federal government. And Lincoln, likewise, his aim was not to abolish slavery. His aim was to restore the Union and put down a rebellion. Now, by this point in the war, Lincoln recognized because he was a masterful politician, Lincoln recognized that there were some political advantages to changing the aims of the war. But it was a dangerous thing, too, because by making it about slavery, by issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, he was opening himself up to the possibility that they could lose some of the border states to the Confederacy. Because remember, some of the states that stayed loyal to the Union were slaveholding states like Missouri and Maryland. Of course, Maryland, I think, was largely held by force, but Kentucky, another one. So Lincoln had to tread carefully, and so what he ended up doing is he makes the Emancipation Proclamation a military measure, and he says that only the slaves that are being held in places occupied or controlled by the Confederacy are the ones that are freed. And not going to get into all that, but basically then Antietam becomes his justification for issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, because it was close enough to a victory for them to not have to issue the Emancipation Proclamation after a defeat and make it look like a desperate thing, which it may have been. So by winning, or at least fighting to a draw against the Confederacy here and repelling Lee's invasion, the Union gave Lincoln the ability to change the focus of the war. And I think that is what really kept Europe from intervening, because they weren't going to intervene on behalf of a slave-holding Confederacy against a non-slave-holding Union, or at least that's how it was perceived. Of course, this was the bloodiest single day in American history. It was about a 12-hour battle. It started early in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, with this assault through Miller's Cornfield. It was Joseph Hooker up against Stonewall Jackson, kind of a preview of the two men that would be involved in a lot of the fighting at Chancellorsville the next spring. I'm going to push down and try to drive this cavalry out. I'm not really going to engage too heavily with his main body in this first part of the battle. I'm going to kind of hold these guys back right here. It was really foggy, especially that morning. And, of course, with the smoke of all the guns firing and just the visibility, I mean, that's a lot of what led to a lot of the casualties was just a slugfest at places like the Cornfield, which I guess is over here. I'm thinking this is Dunkard Church here, so this would be the Cornfield. So the first part of the battle takes place here around the Cornfield. It's Hooker assaulting Stonewall Jackson, and they're just hurling themselves at each other. The Cornfield changes hands multiple times. There's a huge artillery duel that happens. I actually visited the Antietam battlefield a few months ago, shot some videos there, and I'll put some links below in the description that you can check out a few of those little short videos that I shot talking about some of the interesting stories at a few of the landmarks. Hit him again. I don't know why this cavalry keeps charging me. It's just ugly for him. Once I kind of deal with that, I'm going to continue to push south. I want to get these guys all the way down here if I can. So the first part of the battle takes place here, Miller Cornfield. After that, about 9-10 o'clock in the morning is when the assault on the Sunken Lane, or as it's come to be known, Bloody Lane, starts. And simultaneous to that, all the way on the Confederate right, you have the assault on what became known as Burnside Bridge, because it was Burnside's corps that was assaulting that position. And those both go on for about 3 to 4 hours. And eventually the Union captures both of those objectives. Union had a huge advantage in numbers in this battle, and McClellan didn't take advantage of that. He held a lot of his forces back in reserve and really could have won a decisive victory here if he had pressed the attack a little bit. But it was all over by, I think, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The Confederates got some reinforcements up into the town of Sharpsburg. They had a counterattack, pushed the Union back across Burnside Bridge, kind of stabilized their position, and then that was it. It was all over by about 5. So those Antietam was not one of the bloodiest battles of the war, just because so many battles like Gettysburg, Chickamauga, Chancellorsville had so many more, but all of those were multiple-day battles, and this all happened in 12 hours. All right, so we're going to kind of hang tight here. I think I'll bring these guys down a little bit more and over this way a bit. This whole, like I said, this whole battlefield is going to open up here in the next section. I don't know if he's still got cavalry down here or not. I'm going to break off some skirmishers just to be safe. Future president fought at the Battle of Battle of Antietam. Well, I don't know that he really fought. I think he was a commissary sergeant, but William McKinley was with the 23rd Ohio over near Burnside Bridge. There's actually a pretty large monument to McKinley there that was dedicated after he had been president. And McKinley actually served under Rutherford B. Hayes in the 23rd Ohio. I don't think Hayes was still with the regiment at Antietam, but they served together in the 23rd Ohio, two future presidents. In fact, McKinley, after the Battle of Antietam, went back to Ohio with some other sergeants and McKinley was promoted to second lieutenant by Governor David Todd of Ohio for his service at Antietam. William McKinley, know a lot about him here where I live because I live just a couple of miles. In fact, my wife's hometown is Niles, Ohio, which is William McKinley's hometown. He was born there in Niles, and one of my great uncles was the man by the name of Christian Hughes. He was actually the man who built the house that William McKinley was born in Niles. All right, so here we go. We're starting to make contact, and the battlefield's opened up. I'm going to pause for just a second here because now, of course, we've got some troops available to us here. I'm gonna cross the bridge, but then I'm gonna hang tight. I'm not gonna move up until I start pressing down from these other positions because I feel like I'll probably be outnumbered and really kind of have myself in a difficult situation. So we're gonna kind of hold back until things stabilize a little bit on the other parts of the field. Gonna need a lot of supplies because this right side of my line is gonna be engaged for the rest of the battle. It's a long day, and every bit of these supplies are needed. I'm gonna hold off though, just so I can only resupply who really needs it. All right, I'm gonna start advancing from this side. I actually kind of need some more troops down there, so I'm gonna bring these guys down. And I'm actually going to bring this division over, or these divisions over here to replace them before I start advancing. There's a different strategy than I've tried before as the Union. I want to see if I have any success with it. Can't really engage in too much counter battery fire just because I haven't reached his batteries yet to where I can see them. Alright, some more troops coming into the field. I'm going to shift keys over too. And then I'll start marching down once I get this line up to maybe here. Oh boy. Runaway skirmishers. Didn't know the Barksdale's brigade was down there. Yeah, well, we kind of knew that was going to happen. Alright, I think we're good there. Like I said, I'm going to hold these guys right here. I just wanted to make sure I had the toehold across the river. Come on, Irish Brigade. There you go. Why do I hear the sound of melee attack? Because I don't see an attack happening. Oh, there it is. It was Saunders coming, that's why. Or Sanders. Okay. So these guys are almost in the position. I'll start bringing this line down. Alright. See his units are inching toward me here. They're 12-pound howitzers, so I need to get them across the river to be effective. Oh, Irish Brigade's faltering. Now we're going to drop Pond back. Okay. So I've got almost a 2-to-1 advantage right now in numbers. Stonewall Brigade's about to get lit up. I'm actually going to send Keys down here to cover the flank. Keep one eye over here, make sure I'm just not really getting messed up. Alright, I think just because of the numbers I have, I can probably at least inch forward a little bit and just be cautious and watch what's happening. And I'm going to come right to the edge of these woods, and I'm going to stop there. Just use that cover. Alright, looks like we're engaging over here now. This is where I got to be careful. I don't know what his numbers are. Anderson's division prepares for a counterattack. Okay. Alright, stop. Stop. Longstreet supervising the defense at Sunken Road over here. That's great. I'm not going that far right now. I'm going to pause for a second and take a look at the objectives. We need to hold Sharpsburg and the Sunken Road in order to win. Of course, Sharpsburg, we don't even have that part of the battlefield open yet, but we are going to have to take this here. Not too much of an issue, I don't think, especially when I've got, let's see, what have I lost? 2,400 men. He's lost about 3,000. Hardest part for me is just kind of making sure that I keep my forces organized with all the movement that I'm making. And keep an eye on supply as well. I'm going to kind of hang tight here with these guys. Wow, he's trying to load up pretty heavily on me over here. Oh, Braxton, back up. I probably need to get some help over there. Seems like I've got plenty going on here. Yeah, you can temporarily have Dunker Church back. See, I didn't put a lot of forces in my center, which is what this is here. Mainly it's just I wanted it to be a distraction, something that drew some of his forces away while I made my main attack over on my right. Keep an eye on supply. I'm a little worried about who's going to run out. It looks like the Irish Brigade is going to be one of the first ones to run out of supply. So I'm going to kind of just do a little supply run here and reinforce all my infantry. Or resupply my infantry. Okay. Dunker Church is pretty secure at this point. Come on, McClellan, get down there. These guys are hanging on for dear life. They're my cannon fodder that's drawing away some of his forces from reinforcing this position. But help is on the way. Whoa, back off, guys, back off. I got to pause for a second here just to kind of reevaluate everything, because this is kind of a problem. I really need more forces over here, and I'm trying to get them there, but it's just not going to happen fast enough. Everything's in really good shape on this side. I just really need to keep pushing, I guess. I'm kind of holding back the Irish Brigade because they've done really well, 1,300 kills, but they've lost 500 men as well, and they weren't a full-size brigade to begin with. All right, I'm just going to kind of inch by inch move this forward now. All right, I've lost 4,000. He's lost 7,000, so that's good. All right, we drove off a couple of these brigades. Oh, turn around that way. Oh boy. Get over there, guys. Come on. Oh, that cavalry unit's really getting messed up. I'll hold these guys back because I've got infantry there now. Alright, wow, he is hurling everything over this way. Okay, I got to push down and relieve the pressure on them. We're almost into the town. Alright. We'll go to the end of this phase, and then I'll wrap up this first episode of Antietam. Definitely should have put more men on this side. It's an obvious weak spot in my line. Hold up right there. I gotta be careful doing this. Alright. He routed, so now we'll pull these guys out. That was really the main goal there. Get out. Come on, Peckham. Get out of there. Wow, he is just throwing everything he can at me over here. I've got to move forward. So the problem is I loaded up too much there, and I've got all these extra brigades that aren't really involved. And I should have probably had a few more over here just to kind of even things out. But I'm going to stop right there. That's a good stopping point, probably about halfway through the battle. Still a lot to go. I've got him kind of wrapped up on three sides. He's going to basically end up getting destroyed, I think, the forces that he has here. I'm going to take a lot of casualties on this side. But as I continue to kind of envelop him, I'm going to destroy a good bit of this army. So the casualties are going to be pretty high for me, but they're going to be massive on the Confederate side. So I'll wrap it up right there. We'll come back. with the next episode. I'm recording videos a few days out in advance now because this is the week that I start my travel for Rachel's Challenge. And so I'm going to be in northern Ohio and on the south side of St. Louis this week, and then off to Fayetteville, North Carolina next week. So thanks for watching. I always say this, but I'll say it again. I welcome your input, your observations, things you might have done differently, things you found that work really well for Antietam as the Union, and or just your observations on the battle or the war itself. I'd love to hear those things. I'll have a channel update coming in a couple days with a question of the week. I'll probably shoot that from up in Cleveland maybe as I travel there later today. But thanks for watching. If you'd hit that thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate it, and we will see you again very soon with part 2 of the Battle of Antietam.